Hi there, I'm reporting on standard number 1, which is legal compliance. And so the language of the standard is very simple. I would describe it as both simple and also all encompassing. The standard is requiring us teachers to follow all state and federal laws, and specifically, they're referring to felony convictions. They're definitely referring to all drug and substance related offenses, as well as any and all sexual related offenses. So they also include this very broad reaching category, which is crimes of moral turpitude. And that is referring to any sort of crime that is not within the moral code or the expectations for the community that we're operating within. And, as we all know, being an educator, our standard of our character and our moral compass within the community is rather high. So there are certain, misdemeanors and other offenses that might not be a big deal in other, industries that we might work in, but as an educator, they could become a pretty big deal. So at the end of the day, you've got, if you find yourself in this extremely horrible situation, number one, it's going to be reported, it's got to be, I should say, reported to the PSC. So the PSC, of course, would make the final decision after due process on how that will affect your teaching license. So depending on what that is, it could mean anything from a letter in your file for like a one-time thing that's more minor to a complete revoking of your teaching license. So definitely want to make sure you're following all the state and federal guidelines for standard 1, which is legal compliance. So I did discover a recent event that was not related to testing security or sex crimes against, minors or whatever. So I found that in December there was an article in AJC, and I guess there was a teacher that came in from New York City and was a principal there. And while he was principal there, I guess he was arrested and convicted of a meth possession charge. And so after that, he left that state, and he was arrested and convicted, but he plead guilty of a lesser offense like public disturbance or something like that. And so they did agree to drop that from his record. But of course, according to the standard, which I forgot to also mention, if you are convicted of the charge or you plead no contest, so if you're guilty or you plead no contest, so you're somehow admitting or found guilty, the PSC will hold you accountable then for being in violation of that standard. So what that means is, and they say this very specifically in the standard, if you then want to appeal that charge or it gets disposed of in some way, much like this New York City principal meth case, that does not matter. They're still going to treat it the same way and go through their due process, and you will still have whatever consequences come with that. So where the other way that this New York City principal went wrong is that he then moved to the state of Georgia and applied for a job teaching at DeKalb County School District. And so they found out later, I guess it was easy to find out just from a simple Google search, that he was convicted of that crime. Now, they did clearly say that being convicted of a previous crime does not necessarily mean that you can't get a job per se. However, this particular teacher, when asked on that application, if he had been convicted of a previous crime, he actually said no, he didn't. And so, lying on the application and saying that he did not was really the thing that made it all hit the fan. And so, of course, you need to be honest and have full integrity and disclosure when you're filling out those applications. That's another part of that standard. So in general, I think this is a very, very easy one to remember because we're supposed to be following the law in the first place. But just remember that unlike other professions, you know, something that might go wrong with you in the law, wrong place at the wrong time, bad decision, whatever. In many other jobs, you just would come back, you know, after you're let out of jail or bailed out. You could come right back to work the next day. With teaching, you may never, you know, teach again. So we will all be sure to behave ourselves. Thank you.